What's up, everybody? My name is Cameron Williams, and I'm joined by the brilliant Austin Clokus, and you're watching The Root Report, the podcast for everything new college athletics. And we're really excited to bring this to you guys. I know you guys might be sick and tired of hearing us, so good news is we're going to have other people on this thing, so you don't have to listen to us all the time. But, yeah, man, question of the day from the great Zach Ritchie, who's behind the camera. Everybody thanks Zach and give him a clap. Favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think this might be controversial, but I don't really like ice cream that much.
Oh.
I think ice cream is one of the most overrated desserts of all time, but that's not answering the question. So I'm going to go with the classic cookies and cream. I think it's very hard to go wrong there, but I just want to put it on record that I'm not really an ice cream guy. I think it's very overrated as a dessert.
I mean, the first thing is you're wrong. It's not overrated.
I mean, it's an opinion. You can't really
Second,
be wrong on an opinion.
you gotta go chocolate chip cookie dough.
I don't like chocolate chip cookie dough.
Wow.
No.
So we're off to a bad start, but hopefully we'll rebound it by going over some of the fun things that happened this past weekend. Austin, you want to get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really fun weekend, especially because we had our Sun Conference opener in volleyball against Ave Maria University, the Gyrenes. Fun fact, I just found out what a gyrene is.
Really?
Yes.
Go ahead and explain it to everybody.
Oh, I thought you were going to take it there.
No.
I don't want to.
You brought it up, bro.
So we went against the Gyrenes, and, it was a game where we kind of... Listen, it was a good test for both teams because for the Gyrenes, this was a conference that they really struggled in last year, and have been having a pretty rough start to it this season. And for Florida College, this is their first time competing in the conference. So it's two kind of younger teams really going head-to-head and testing each other out, testing the waters of this conference. And I sort of was a little bit panicked first because we did drop the first set. And I was like, oh boy, okay, is this going to be one of those things where we just get swept in our first conference game? But boy, did we show some resilience. We came back, our offense really got going, a really strong duo by our setter, Rafael Domingos, and Cassidy Casey, I think our middle blocker, those two really came together for a lot of kills. And after that, it was also Ariana Garcia who took us on a lot of runs. So all around a strong team effort, some really strong resilience, and it was a fun win. We ended up winning the series 3-1.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's always good, like you said, first conference win, good starting point. Yeah. Obviously, the schedule is going to get tougher, but Ave is still a good team. I mean, we were both thoroughly impressed with how they played.
For sure.
Especially with, the struggle to start the year, to be where they're at and playing at that level. I mean, they're still very good. So I thought it was a good showcase. I know Lynn Burnett was, for those of you, head coach for women's volleyball. She was very happy with the win.
Right.
Preseason's been kind of up and down for them, I feel like.
It's been a roller coaster. Obviously, they had a lot of exhibition matchups. They did play in the Talladega tournament where they didn't have the best record, ended up going 1-3 in that contest. But, I feel like it doesn't really matter how many preseason games. We can talk about preparation and the practice that those games give you. I don't think anything can really truly prepare you for your first home regular season game. There's just nothing like it. And that's something that some of the coaching staff even talked about after the game is they did feel a little of the jitters. They did think they were maybe a little nervous going into it, which could be why they dropped that first set the way they did. But whatever nerves they had, they were able to shake off relatively quickly. And, hopefully those nerves won't make a return because they've got a pretty rough road ahead of them in the conference schedule.
Absolutely. And then Saturday we also had men's soccer. They played Saturday night. They did draw. It was a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Entertaining game.
It was entertaining.
Very physical. So we did have 7 cards in that one. So if anybody likes physicality and heavy defense, this was your game to watch. But the men's team, like I said, they did draw. So they're now 1-2-1 on this season. Matthew Dynarski with the lone goal. Andrew Scott with the assists. That came in the 65th minute, but then unfortunately we did concede in the 79th minute, and Weber notched it up and kept it that way the same all the way through.
I mean, our defense played really well, and that's sort of been a headline that has stayed consistent throughout the season in many of these games is the stout showing of our defense. Doing a really good job. We've got a lot of technical players back there that played really well. It's just we can't really gather enough offensive momentum to get over the hump, to really put points on the board, put goals on the board to be able to stretch out and get the lead in these matchups and these close contests. I mean, it was 1-0 for a majority of the second half. We had the advantage, and then down to the last 10 minutes, our defense that had been bend but didn't break all game finally did break. It was inevitable almost. And just couldn't get anything else on the board and ended up being a tie, which obviously isn't the worst outcome, but it's still disappointing to see a very physical, a very entertaining matchup end in a draw. It's just not very fun.
Absolutely. So both those teams are back in action this week. Women's soccer also in action, so we're hoping for some rebound victories there.
Yeah. Women's soccer finally get to be able to play their first full game. That's the question.
Yep. So for just a heads up, women's soccer, they play on Saturday. They're at Kaiser, which is pretty good.
Someone check the weather for Kaiser right now.
Yeah, so that game will be good. And then men's soccer is also at home against Kaiser. That'll be at 7:30. So be sure to be at Premier Sports or tune in to me and Austin on the broadcast. That should be a fun one. Women's volleyball, they also have 2 games this week. So they'll be at Southeastern, the old stomping grounds.
Southeastern.
So that one's on Wednesday at 7 p.m. in Lakeland. And then they are actually back home on Saturday. They're hosting Florida Memorial University. That one will be at Bradenton Christian. And then again on the Sun Digital Network. So yeah, what's the game of the week this week? I know you're going to say the Southeastern.
Yeah, okay.
But unbiased, what's the game of the week?
No, okay, I'm going to stick to my guns, Cameron. I'm not going to let you try to maneuver me out of my path of dialogue, okay? I want to talk about the Southeastern game. Because listen, this was the school where I got my start as a commentator, okay, as a caster, as a PA announcer. They trained me up, went there for 4 years. We had a pretty darn good volleyball team. But listen, that doesn't mean that I'm going to show up to Southeastern in my fire shirt and get all fired up, so to speak. I'm going to be there for my Banyans because this is a team that is very fun, very exciting to watch, and I think we can put on a show. I think that Southeastern is it's cool because the way our schedule is laid out, it's sort of an escalating level of difficulty, like almost a video game, right? We play Ave Maria, one of the being blatant one of the weaker teams in the conference. Southeastern University getting to more middle of the pack, more top half. So it's going to be a good test for this Banyans team that does have some momentum, and it's going to be a really close game. That's my prediction, and I'm hoping that the Banyans can walk out with a win, and I can maybe flaunt it at my old school just a little bit.
Absolutely. And then men's soccer, that's my game of the week, men's soccer versus Kaiser. The women's team as well plays Kaiser. For those unaware, Kaiser is a powerhouse in terms of men's and women's soccer, especially in the conference.
Yeah.
They're up at the top in both. I know St. Thomas currently is number 3 ranked NAI in men's, but Kaiser is ranked, and then Kaiser is one of the top teams for the women's side as well. So both of those are going to be really good games. I'd have to give my game of the week, though, to men's soccer versus Kaiser. Saturday Night Lights.
It's going to be a good game.
Saturday Night Lights. It's going to be good. All right. Here's the big one, Banyan of the Week. All right, and now we're going to get into the biggest part of this podcast, which is the Banyan of the Week, and a little description of what that was. We did do it last year, but we didn't have a podcast, so we did it on a story. But basically, every week, we are going to choose, with the help of our coaches and everyone on staff, a Banyan of the Week. So that can be a player, a coach, a staff member, a professor, and we're gonna talk about them and the impact and what they bring to New College, both as an athletic department or as an academic institution. So this week, Austin's got the nominees. We're going to get into those right now. So really excited for this.
All right. So after careful consideration and careful checking of all of the stat books, there are 3 players that really stood out this week, that really performed at an excellent level. The first is one of the men's soccer players, a strong defensive player who his performance might not have shown up on the stat books, but it definitely showed up in the game, and that's Jaden Williams, a guy who went down several times throughout the game, battled a lot of adversity, but always got back right up, and it was a critical part of making sure that this game stayed close, right? Without him out there on the defense, it could have definitely been a more one-sided affair, but it wasn't, and he played well. Second, 2 players from, of course, the team that won their first Sun Conference matchup, that being women's volleyball. And these 2 players, we brought up their names already on this cast, a really strong offensive duo. The first being Cassidy Casey, who recorded 12 kills, but also had 6 blocks. So did it on both sides of the ball, was very offensive and defensive. And then someone who really made those kills possible, that being Afael Domingos. She had 32 assists and also had 5 blocks on her own. So she was a very strong point of that comeback. So yeah, those are our 3 nominations. But Cameron, I'm going to leave it up to you to decide who exactly it is that won Banyan of the Week.
Yeah, so we do have a winner. It does come from women's volleyball. Obviously,
Okay.
you can't when you win a game in the Sun Conference, your first ever game in program history, but then also just new College of Florida history. That was an easy picking, but Cassidy Casey is your first Banyan of the Week.
First ever Banyan of the Week in the Sun Conference.
Yes. So the first one of the year. I think it was pretty self-explanatory when you watched the game, the impact she had, especially for those of you listening. Cassidy Casey transferred in here. She's a senior. She's one of the leaders of this team, and she made that known in their game. She demonstrated it both with her, how she led vocally, but then also how she just led in terms of sheer production, which was, some of the best play we've seen all year.
Absolutely. It was a clear difference maker, really. Every time she was on the court, she was making her presence felt. Very deserving of this award.
Absolutely. All righty, so we've gotten through everything. Episode 1, I think we're done.
That is the end of the first ever Root Report
episode. For those of you who don't get it, it's Rudy.
It's Rudy. It's the Banyan, the tree.
Yeah, the mascot, the guy that you'll see at games or on social media.
We saw him this last
weekend.
He was taking pictures.
He
with
was
people.
there. Did a great job.
He was flexing as he does.
Yeah. Also, huge shout out before we leave to all of our Banyan fans who were at the games this
Every
weekend.
Single Banyan.
Oh my goodness, the crowd, especially for that volleyball game, was
It was hype.
Incredible.
It was fun.
So it makes our jobs more fun. Obviously, it helps out these athletes and these coaches. So really appreciate you guys. Be sure for all things new College of Florida Mighty Banyans. I feel like I plug this every time.
You gotta plug it. We gotta do the plug.
Every time I got a mic, but
no shame, Cameron.
Go mightybanyans.com. Look that up online. That'll give you everything you could ever want and dream of in terms of new college athletics. And then you can also follow us on social media. That's Instagram, X, and Facebook. And you already said the handle, but go ahead one more time.
NCF Banyans.
All lowercase. So be sure to hit up those two. We're also going to be coming out with some YouTube content, but we'll keep you updated on that when it comes out. So, yeah. Awesome. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for listening.